So I'm going to talk a bit about the user acquisition market, an introduction to automation tools. I'm going to talk to you about a new product that we're releasing in beta and give you a little sneak preview of that, and then talk about where we think kind of user acquisition automation is going in future. So a little bit about the company. There's some company stats on the screen here. So in terms of our active apps on the platform, we have 50,000 apps now running at Vungle. We had some amazing growth last year. There's a few Vunglers in the room, so those you got to see it. Huge leaps in terms of, it was the first year we broke 200 employees, over 300 million of revenue, and really starting to scale our business. So exciting times at Vungle. All right, a little bit about me. Slightly different jacket, same kind of facial expression. But yeah, I run product at Vungle, work with a team of some awesome people that help build the products that we put out in the market. Our products are for advertisers. We build user acquisition tools and we run them through our platform, and I'm going to show you how we're starting to expose those more to customers to use directly. And then we also monetize for publishers, for those of you who don't know us, through our SDK, which is in those 50,000 apps I talked about. In the past, I've been working in the ad tech industries, as well as consumer and enterprise space and some startups, and also published a bunch of apps to the app stores as well. So first off, I'll talk briefly about the UA market. And good news for all of us here at Casual Connect is we see a lot of growth. So this is the revenue forecast for the mobile app industry. So expected to grow considerably over the next few years. A lot of that growth coming from APAC, so it's really interesting to hear the panel before. But also solid growth across Europe and the US. And that creates some interesting opportunities for on the marketing side, right? So we're in the business track here. And so what happens then, we've got a lot of growth happening around the app stores in general, but then finding users to get users into your apps becomes the job of in-app advertising, right? And that's actually expected to grow at a higher rate over the next few years. So that's pretty interesting. So what that means is discovery of apps, right? Finding the right users for your apps is going to get more sophisticated, more challenging, and that's hopefully where we come in. Okay. So next I want to talk about, so that's one of the big trends. The app stores are growing, expected to grow. I think, again, that's really good for everyone here. But there's another big trend I want to talk to you about today a little bit. And then we're going to talk about how those trends kind of converge. Second trend I want to talk to you about is automation. So just a few articles I managed to find around automation. So it's pretty interesting. If you're afraid of the robots, definitely don't check the news. They're even better at playing games than we are. That was the most disturbing thing I saw. So yeah, some really interesting developments in AI, automation, technologies. And we think these could be applied a lot to user acquisition, right? So I'm sure there's some user acquisition folks in the room. But when we've been talking to our partners on the UA side and talking to our advertisers, there's a number of kind of, I would say, pain points that they bring out pretty regularly that we think automation technologies can help solve. So I want to highlight a few of those today. So overall, we think user acquisition and automation tools will make user acquisition easier and faster. And here's how. First off, faster campaign creation. So you'll see on the left there, this is part of Facebook's UI for the non-user acquisition users in the room, right? Quite a complex flow to go through and set up your campaigns. And we think there's some better ways to do that, right? Simpler user interfaces that help make recommendations to you. Smart recommendations of how to set up and target. So you're optimizing towards your ROAS goals. You're not having to really drill down on specific audiences that you may not want to buy. And we think we can offer a better solution to the industry on this. Also creative production. So talking to people who are doing buys across all the different ad networks. You'll see on the left here Snapchat's ad specs. It's quite a comprehensive document. Props to them. It's very transparent. It tells you exactly what you have to go and build to run an ad with them. But if you have to do that for every ad network, every partner, that's quite complex. And what we hear from our advertisers is they want something simpler than that, right? So, what we do is we build a lot of creatives for our top advertisers, but we want to scale that out to more customers. We want to be able to support much more advertisers and give them the benefits and the learnings that we see in the network in terms of creative. So what we've been building towards is some automation tools around creative. So instead of you having to go in and upload a bunch of very dispersed assets, we can actually take some very simple set of assets, put them into our UI. Our UI will do the work of breaking those out and populating our templates. And I'm going to show you a couple of examples of those. And then faster performance optimization. So when you launch a campaign, right, there's a lot riding on this campaign. It's very big for the company, you've got large spend. But what a lot of people on the kind of advertiser side are having to do is then pull aggregate reports. There's some amazingly sophisticated dashboards that people have built to then analyze the performance. But what you really want to do is just see, hey, is this working towards my goals, and should I invest more or should I dial it down? And we think there's better ways to organize and show that than everyone having to pull and aggregate their own data. So we've been working on this product, which is our self-serve advertiser experience. It's in beta right now. We've got over 20 customers using it, and it's at the URL grow.vungle.com. And we're announcing that this week. We've been working with some partners on this, and it's starting to get some really interesting feedback. So I wanted to share a little bit more about it with you, and I can stick around after for questions or suggestions on how we can make it better. It'd be awesome to talk to you all about it. So what grow.vungle.com is, it's a tool designed to help with user acquisition challenges. It's designed to help with campaign automation. So you don't have to go through a very complex and comprehensive UI. You can very easily come in, pick your app from the App Store, set your goals, and we'll optimize to it. It's also designed to automate creative. Again, this pain point of having to send people files and go back and forth on creative across every network. It's a very complex issue. Why can't I just go in, upload a video, and I'm up and running? And ideally, someone helps me with that video. And I'm going to talk about that a little later on, something we're working on in terms of R&D. Then performance optimization. This is a key one, right? So how do I know this is hitting my goals? Do I have to do this manually? Like on some of the examples we looked at, do I have to pull that data myself and work out if my campaign's performing? Or does my campaign run through an order bidder and we'll manage that for you? And we think that last example is definitely better for our customers. And then enhanced reporting, as I showed you. So just some examples of the workflow. It's a very simple setup. So if you look at some of the tools that are out there in the market currently for user acquisition, we think we've built something simpler and easier to use, right? That optimizes to various different targets. We're adding in more sophistication on the buying and the types of buying you can do through the UI now. But we've already got a lot of feedback that it's easier and quicker to set up a campaign than on various other platforms, which is great. On the creative side, this is a big thing for us. Creative is something we're known for, something we invest a lot of time in. But we've got a really nice way to very quickly create you ads. So you can come in, you can add a video, you actually see some suggestions and recommendations of what to add. You see that over on the picture there. And then what you actually see, which is animated, and thanks for everyone taking photos on that, it's cool. Little tooltips. This is something we really wanted to add. Tooltips that make suggestions around how, or other assets or other improvements you can make to that creative. And one of the tools that helps us with this is we built, oh, you'll see a little there. It's not too bad. So we built this product a little while ago called Dynamic Templates that helps us populate this. But I'll let you watch the video for a second. So this was a product we called Dynamic Templates. One of the interesting things about this product was enabled us to take that same asset. You see a similar set of assets in all those creative examples. Hope that came through, right? How we do that is we built a bunch of templates that basically integrate into now our self-serve dashboard. So you can very quickly populate those. Previously, we were helping our customers by populating them with our creative team and working with them directly. But one of the reasons we wanted to do this is it really extend well into self-serve environment. So in a self-serve environment, any of those templates can be quickly populated. And the benefit of those templates is they're not SDK dependent, right? So it doesn't matter what publishers have which SDKs, those templates will run consistently across them. So what that means is you can go in, if you put in the right assets, and we're gonna help you do this, and I'll talk a little more around the assets at the end, you're able to populate all those templates, and there are different ways of rendering the ad units that will perform better or worse depending on which apps you're using. And the benefit of that is you're basically putting as many chances as possible into us being able to perform for you, which is pretty interesting. So instead of some of those pain points around, hey, I've got to build my own creative for this network and that platform, and then I have to go and see which creatives are performing well and then change them and iterate on them, we're actually doing that in real time on the fly across 50,000 publishers, which is pretty amazing when you think about it. And all of that feeds into our data science algorithms, which will say, hey, this template's actually better for this user than others. And you can populate this right now from the dashboard. So when we talk about creative automation, there's some other things we can do as well. So in the UI, you're able to label assets, you're able to change language very easily and set up multiple campaigns. And you're able to preview all these creatives, and we've broken down the reporting by creative also. So when you go into the dashboards, you're actually able to see them by all the different creatives. Now, even though we'll be optimizing this for you with our automation tools, you'll actually be able to see which creatives are performing. If you do want to run more of them, you can, obviously, and you can set that up yourselves. But what we want you to do is trust in what we do already, which is help find high-quality users with our engaging video ads. That's what we do. So we're able to do that by you putting in those assets and then us running it through our system and continuing to deliver for you. Lastly, I want to talk about the creative assets themselves and where we kind of see this going. So we wanted, when we were building out these kind of product solutions, we heard these common pain points around, setting up creatives, setting up campaigns is complicated. And we went a little bit deeper and said, well, how about the actual videos themselves? A lot of people told us that's actually hard to build videos for user acquisition. So we had to think about that because, we see some advantages in terms of, really building out great creatives in-house, but maybe we could leverage some of this for a wider audience. So what we're working on right now that ties in really closely with this UI is the ability for people to capture game footage on their phone, and involves adding some best practices that we've learned around adding interaction points. You see that little hand that shows up, pointing at interactive areas within the application or the game that you're wanting to take footage of. You actually add that on top of the video, and you add points to it. What we'll then be able to do is feed that into some of our data science work around recommendations. Because I mentioned before, we have a lot of data around what performs in different contexts across the network. And what we want to do is try and expose that to more of our advertisers. And that's the whole ethos of this kind of self-serve automation platform. So what happens here is we will then take that video that you've created. We would then do some analysis on it and say how you could improve it to make it better, right? What if you add more animation, if you're adding more action, depending on the genre, that will drive more user acquisition, because we can tell that from what we've already seen on the network already and expose some of those learning back to our partners. And then you'll see that going through into our dashboard. So you can take an optimized creative, and we'll help you optimize that creative. We'll push that through in the dashboard. That unlocks all those templates, and then you can go run against your spend that will optimize on the performance side. So there's a couple of little examples at the end here that are hopefully animating through in terms of how we do that. This is actually capturing video on a device, adding things like animated touch points. Then what we do is we have some automation scripts that add more animation to it. So this is a common workflow that's done manually that we're trying to automate. So we now have scripts running in tools like After Effects, like you see here, that help with that automated creative process. And it's adding that hand animation across. And then lastly, you'll see the final output, right, which looks much more like an ad you might see in a rewarded placement in a game's title, where we've helped the advertiser capture that creative. We've actually analyzed what will perform better. We've added this animation. You see this hand come across. And we've made it into something really interesting that will perform well. And all of that without having to invest, you know, a lot of extra money in the creative. You're getting a lot of benefit back from the partner. Thank you, everyone.